Hi folks and fans of the expeditions, welcome to a very special episode of Urban Expeditions where we're going to view the lower church underneath the cathedral. We begin here in Cathedral Square, just in front of the David Livingstone statue, one of the many heroes of exploration. Now, I'm very excited for this episode because I've never actually been down here in the lower church before, where it was built for the Tomb of Saint Mungo in the 12th century. Now, I do apologise for the wind. It's a very windy, chilly autumn day here in Glasgow, but it's going to be a very insightful episode as we journey underneath the cathedral. So straight ahead there is a little hidden Easter egg of the area, and stay tuned to the end of the video for that. If you're a fan of cast iron drinking fountains, the history of Postle Park, and also public decorative ornate drinking fountains, there is one hidden straight ahead. So we're here to view Saint Mungo's tomb and the so-called crypt, though it isn't underground. But I'm very excited. This is my first time viewing the lower church, and we're going to witness some live archaeology, see what artefacts are excavated from the well, and then we're going to see that little hidden Easter egg over there. And tune in next time for a little autumn walk of necropolis where we go and search for the William Wallace monument. A lovely, nice autumn day here in Glasgow, and I do hope you enjoy this episode. Let's explore. So we're about to go downstairs into the crypt, which is 25 steps underneath the main floor of the cathedral. This is my first time travelling down. Wow. Currently travelling underneath the cathedral into the crypt, one of Britain's most beautiful crypts. Due to its rare vaulting. Wow. So we immediately find the tomb of Saint Mungo. That's incredible. So we'll come back to that and show more. So if you haven't been to the crypt before, I highly recommend it. I'm going to check it out. This huge, beautiful tapestry. And look, the end of the rope has a thistle from what it looks like. Wow. Here are tombs by the looks of it. Wow. How incredible is that? We're going to see an archaeological event. There is ancient, mysterious Hebrew writing inscribed into the wall somewhere. We are going to speak to some archaeologists. We're going to check out the building, check out the crypt, and really have some fun.
Oldest part of the building would be some of the pillars in that direction, and I think that is around the year 1200. This bit is slightly later, this is about 1240s this lot went up. And then, as with all cathedrals, subsequent chunks get added. At various times the Blackadder aisle I think gets thrown out 14 something, but don't quote me on that. Because whenever I say the words Blackadder aisle, the theme tune starts playing in my head. It's totally distracting.
But these pillars, this part was
1240 something, this lot, and still pretty well intact. The vaulting there is very unusual, apparently architecturally speaking, and there's a lot of argument about what models they were taking, where they were getting the ideas from.
And where is Saint Mungo? Buried?
Well, assuming that he is still here, the actual shrine of Saint Mungo is basically where the altar is over there. That's the traditional site. They reckon that there would have been in the lower church originally the sort of tomb and altar of Saint Mungo, possibly a tomb for pilgrimage visitors directly above it. So that end of the lower church is older than this end. It got built there and then extended out a few decades later.
So how far would they be down, estimation-wise?
So I mean, how far down would he be buried?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's ever gone looking.
No.
I mean, but bear in mind, by the time this is built, he's been dead for 500 and more years. So if there was a tomb here, it's already become a matter of tradition and not documentation. Right. To the best of my knowledge, the oldest remains they found are from, I think, 7th, 8th century. There was an archaeological dig in the 90s, and they did find some traces of a very ancient burial site. Because the legend of Saint Kentigern, which was written at the behest of the then Bishop of Glasgow towards the end of the 12th century, it was basically to put this as a pilgrimage destination on a firmer footing. But part of that story is that Kentigern wasn't the first holy person on this site. there was already a burial ground, and he buried a Saint Fergus, I think, on this site.
Really?
And then that his little monastic community developed from that. The Diocese of Glasgow is trying to prove that it should be independent of the jurisdiction of the Archbishop of York. It's being backed by the King of Scotland because it's convenient if you have your churches answering to you, not to some bloody foreigner. And so a lot of this is putting together the evidence that we've got a grade A saint who can look after himself. Similarly, the stories about the Battle of Renfrew, when basically Viking invasion, local army in disarray. The then Bishop of Glasgow decides to invoke divine help, comes down here, has a go at the saint's tomb, as it literally says he rebukes the saint for not offering them enough help. Kentigern gets, in whatever dimension he's occupying, kind of annoyed, and says to her, but right, you go out there and fight, and I'll look after the rest. And according to the Song on the Death of Somerled, Kentigern then sets the local vegetation alight, and basically swamps the Vikings with burning trees. Battle happens, somebody whacks off the head of Somerled, victory. It's another of the stories that's going around at that time. What it basically says is we've got a saint who you don't mess with.
This was an important site before Christianity as well.
We can only guess. I
Yeah.
mean, we don't know because no record goes back
No.
pre-Christianity here.
But it is said to be an ancient worshipping site before Christianity.
It's said to be, but the saying is not terribly old saying.
Yeah.
Because water is practically important and it's symbolically important, and people make a fuss about water wherever it turns up. So there's not a hard line between different forms of engagement with it, different forms of ritual. But all these coins that people have dug out, I mean, what sort of ritual is going on when somebody drops a coin into a well? I mean, it's not pagan, they're not propitiating a particular deity. It's probably not Christian as such, but people do it. And I think you just got an awful lot of these little continuities of people reinventing things or recurring ideas. Where you've got a well, that happens.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can get quite het up about this, can you tell? Bear in mind I'm a total amateur, I actually teach maths for a living. That normally disperses the crowd.
Very well arranged.
But yeah, it's fascinating.
Going to see the Hebrew inscription. That is quite mysterious.
Yeah, we have to find it.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's very faint.
Yeah. Yeah, just scratched in. And you know there's amazing graffiti outside the building as well.
How incredible is that? There is an ancient Hebrew inscription on the wall of a pillar inside the crypt of the Glasgow Cathedral, and no one can translate it. Many historians believe it is a prayer, but it is also inscribed in the wall, which is quite unorthodox, quite rare and strange, as if someone was maybe trapped down here, they didn't have scripture and they had to put scripture somewhere, and this was the softest texture that they could get onto. Here is more.
And that will then leach away again when it gets dry. If you were to dig a hole through and go all the way down, if this well originally had artesian pressure, like actual, that it was sending up from some crack in the rocks and it was forcing the water back up through, when they capped it, I suspect that they would have done some sort of culvert running down to the Monday, rather than just filling it, unless they just literally just filled it with rubble. If it was 3-4 meters deeper than that, if it really did go way down, then there's a chance that all they did was fill it with rubble and then put some sort of bitumen or early mortar capping layer on. But would they do that without culverting it? You'd think that they would, get the source of the water away from the building because of course it's damp. But we completely cleaned it out. So what you see, that's the base, it's a sort of capping layer, so it's probable that the actual original medieval well went down about 3 or 4 meters deeper. But we can't go through that just now, so it's impossible to say.
So here we see lots of traditional, typical coins and some treasures over here.
Just have a little chain in amongst the coins, isn't it? A little silver chain. Yeah.
So we have a little bottle that looks very old.
It's mainly 2 pieces of money.
The watch. See, the watch in the sunglasses could have fell.
Archaeology,
Oh,
did you
good. Excellent. Yeah.
How far back did you get in terms of dates? Do you know?
Well, one of our archaeologists thinks the earliest are from the 1940s, but I think most of them are from the 70s,
Right.
80s, so, because they must have periodically cleaned out the well.
They got there before you.
Yeah, I know, we hope to find some medieval treasure, but but the well's been capped, which we hadn't realised until quite recently. We're not quite sure when it was capped. It could have been back in the 60s, or it could have been 100 years earlier. A lot of work was done in the cathedral, so it's hard to tell. Yeah. Some kind of mortar down there, some kind of composite. You reckon it could have been capped as far back as 1860? Is that right?
There's a big remake of There's a big remake of the lower church starting in the 1830s, and I suspect that's when, like all these steps just behind you, those were new. There weren't steps there. They were here, but not there. So they weren't just messing around with this space. So I think they've tidied up that, and they've sealed it, and that's that.
And there was another one that was missing a stone, missing its diamond. So.
We think that the well was cleaned out in the 1960s, so we're not really seeing anything that has to be older than that.
Unless they missed something.
But we haven't really, there's a lot of cleaning still to be done.
And so does that well then, is that a higher level access to the Mullen Diner that's buried, or what's the water source for them?
Yeah, I think it's a freestanding well of its own, but we don't know.
But it flows into the Mullen Dine, doesn't it? Or is it connected?
I mean, I think it's connected in the soil.
But if there's a natural spring, would not flow down to the river.
Well, I think the thing is, it will be, and but there'll be some kind of fault in the in the rock where water is seeping through, and there'll be various places where water is close to the surface, and they've kind of dug down and created this particular one at some point.
And so, how deep is it? And
At the moment, it's about 4 meters deep, and then it's capped.
Oh, right, okay.
And we have no idea.
Oh, so you haven't been all the way to the bottom?
No.
We've been as far as we can.
But it's there's rubble and concrete.
right.
I'll show you a picture.
Cement or something,
Yeah.
which is somebody has deliberately sealed it, so we can't tell you anything.
Okay. So it's not gone all the way down to the water level, right?
Well, the water was coming out, it seeps through, finds a way. So there was about 6 inches of water there.
Okay.
Once they cleared it all out, and then they emptied all that. So, yeah.
So does that well predate this section of the church?
I believe so.
Yeah, so this was built around the well?
My thinking is this was dedicated to Mungo back when the church was much, much, much smaller. So this would have been well outside the church. It would have been just within the precinct of the area, and it would have been one of the places of veneration that lived into the saint. And so in the 1240s, when this part of the church was built, they deliberately shape the church so as to incorporate and take this, make it part of the structure. Part of that early medieval religious landscape, which is a lot more connected to the natural world than wells. All these in Scotland and Ireland, you've got all these holy wells which are associated with saints. So I think that's what that is.
Right.
And so it's not a source of water for drinking or washing or anything.
What's the name? These deacons as well, so well made. You look for a purpose.
Yes, so obviously, as it is now, it's a very smart piece of architecture and everything. Maybe the well in the 10th century was a bit this boggy scoop. I don't know. You go to a lot of these, a boggy scoop. You go to a lot of these holy wells now in the countryside, and they're just kind of a damn patch, really. And they don't have much architecture, is what I'm saying. So that is very.
So is the stonework in there the same age as this stonework?
Yeah,
it's all of a piece.
It's from the middle 13th century. So.
Down here, so that's him at the bottom. And then he spent about 2.5 hours just like filling up buckets and bringing them up by pulley. And then the water started appearing. You can see there's some water there. So then he had to
the most important medieval excavations in Glasgow in about the last 30 years. So, apart from my own, of course. Yeah. Governed. But within the medieval Glasgow, really exciting. Yeah. Kind of astonishing. Now they know what level preservation is and where it is. So now they have to come up with a kind of solution to how they can recover it, because I think the feeling is that the modern construction techniques would have an adverse influence on the long-term survival of the water. And the sarcophagus, which is in the Dublin Old, was discovered in 1855, and so that brought it really to public attention. Yeah. But I mean, they never got famous. Yeah. They were still just something that local people knew about and antiquarians knew about, and nobody else.
How incredible is this? The Tomb of Saint Mungo, the patron saint of Glasgow. Currently inside the crypt, underneath Glasgow Cathedral. Here is a big tapestry. The Tomb of Saint Mungo, Saint Kentigern. The chapel and tomb of Saint Mungo. How incredible. So his remains will be buried way underneath that. But we are already 25 steps underneath the ground level of the cathedral right now. We are in the crypt, way underneath the ground level. And what a beautiful interior. Wow. That's very interesting. So I assume this section relates to maritime Christians. No entry into this Royal Navy British Legion Scotland Glasgow headquarters branch. Wow. Wow, look at that room in there, very dark. I recognise that man in the painting there. Who is that? Is that Hamlet? This is quite interesting. A human personification of the sun. I do like the model of the ship.
So these are the second queen just died.
As you can see, there's ventilation shafts or ventilation gates everywhere. Wow. Well, that was a fun and insightful journey underneath the cathedral. I like this. Looks like remnants of something bigger. It looks very old too. We're going to see this now, hidden little Easter egg. Which is just right here at the Saint Mungo Museum of Religious Life and Art. Behind this little Zen garden here, we will find a little historical Easter egg. So this is a little Zen garden just at the Saint Mungo Museum, across from the cathedral, and there's a little hidden Easter egg right here. So this is pattern number 15 of Walter McFarlane and Co. Foundry, the Saracen Postle Park Foundry. So it's very interesting to think that these were more common at one point. And I do believe it's a drinking fountain. There's an old bell. It's very interesting. Glasgow. So that old foundry is responsible for lots and lots of the cast iron infrastructure that we see today in Glasgow and beyond. I believe his work can be seen all over the UK, including London, I do believe. Well, that was a very fun, interesting and insightful episode, journeying down to see the lower church. with all its marvellous details. And then the hidden history Easter egg behind that wall right there. And all the lovely scenery here at Cathedral Sqaure. I'm going to take advantage of this nice sunny autumn day and record a video in Necropolis in search of the William Wallace monument. If you're interested in seeing that, do visit the channel in a few days. This has been a very fun episode to make, celebrating Glasgow 850, and I do hope that you've enjoyed watching it. Take care of yourself, and see you next time on Urban Expeditions.